In the last episode of the Solar Spotlight podcast, my good friend Dave Leahy mentioned the hottest product he's seen on the rise in the Midwest called the RoofTech Mini. I'm now lucky enough to be joined today by RoofTech's Director of Sales, Michael Dunlap. Thanks for joining me today, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, it's kind of ironic that your product was brought up in my last podcast. And while I've never personally had my hands on it yet, I've heard nothing but good things about it. A lot of installers, a lot of clients of mine are using it here in the Midwest, but it looks like it's also getting adopted all over, maybe all over the world. I was hoping you could tell us all about RoofTech, your guys' story, the products that you guys have, and what you're doing to help solar installers in the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. And shout out to McNaught McCabe, Dave out there, great guy. And I certainly like to hear that feedback from our distribution partners, and especially from the Midwest where I'm from. I'm just right outside Chicago in Indiana. And McNaught McCabe was actually one of my very first customers as I joined the RoofTech team just under 5 years ago. So it's very cool to hear from them. So, just a little bit about RoofTech and, where we came from is probably a lot more interesting than, perhaps my start in solar. But so about RoofTech is that, we are a Japan-based company. So right now, our marketable areas, when you mention the world, is basically North America, as we're being the only subsidiary of our parent company, Yanagiken, which is a literal translation to RoofTech. We share the same logo. So we focus on North America, Canada, US, and Mexico. And then the other regions that we focus on globally are Japan. And we're just starting to get into Australia. So it's been pretty cool to see that expansion over the past few years. But certainly our presence here in the US does not mark the beginning of RoofTech. So RoofTech actually started in 1968 under the parent company of Yanagiken. And they were a roofing manufacturer. And how it kind of started to get to them transferred into the solar industry, which happened in the 90s, was the fact that Japan itself was trying to do this million solar roof push, very similar to what California has just done over the past few years. Well, they started to do that in the 90s. And at that time, these solar manufacturers, Kyocera, LG, a few of the other Asian-based solar manufacturers were out trying to find how are we going to put all these panels on top of roofs, because roof racking wasn't really a thing back then. Most of the solar was commercially installed on oil rigs or perhaps installed on the ground. So actually, one of these manufacturers reached out to RoofTech, and we started to develop these products in the mid-90s, 1992, 1993, 1994. And that flexible flashing approach ended up securing us about 70% of the market share in Japan alone. So right now, we are the most commonly used flashing products in Japan, and it's all done through the module manufacturer. So it's a little bit different over there. Like, you actually call the module manufacturer, and then they set you up with the entire system. And that's where we represent, that 70% of that market share. So we've been doing solar installs since 94, which puts us at 26 years, going on 27 years of doing flashing, which makes us the oldest racking manufacturer, flashing manufacturer in the world, in the country, certainly in the country. So that's a really cool thing. So that's definitely the history of RoofTech and where we came from and how we came to be. And ultimately, we've been doing the same type of flexible flashings for 26 years. Which is really cool that I don't think really any other manufacturer can talk about.
Thank you for the backstory. So now I'm excited to ask you, why the RoofTech Mini or any of your guys' other products? Obviously, there are several different products in the industry when it comes to flashing and potential penetrations of the roof to actually secure the racking. Tell me about your products, what makes them different, and why people are using RoofTech so much right now.
Sure. Great question. So, initially when I started with RoofTech, I was a general contractor getting interested in solar and found my way into this company, RoofTech, which had a very different solution. So as a contractor, I was used to metal-based flashings, lifting up shingles, dealing with finding the rafter and all that kind of stuff. Very familiar with that. Pain in the butt, but it's really all that anyone knew. So coming into the solar industry, I was assuming that that was going to be the same process. I actually met Roof Tech. They had a very different solution of using a flexible flashing, very similar to what you would see on membrane roofs, and they used it across the board. Which is one of the reasons why we were so successful in Japan. But in the US 4 or 5 years ago, no one was really looking at doing that in that fashion. We were so different from the traditional metal flashings that a lot of people didn't really believe in the product, didn't believe that it was going to be working. And that's where we came in. I came in to basically kind of share my history of my knowledge about, the benefits of the flexible flashing and how to use it. And we slowly started to get people to try us. And almost instantly when someone tries us, they automatically get this sense of, wow, that was super easy. I can see how quality the product is. And then, of course, every winter that went by and still not having any leaks or still not having any issues, that word of mouth traveled exponentially through the contractor industry. So, for example, with Madonna and McKay, it took me forever to get those guys to agree to let me, to try to sell us and try us. And then from there, no one having any issues. Once you move to our product, if you had problems with leaks before, those problems are gone. And that's just because of the simple product. It goes on top of the shingle. It's universal to any type of roofs. It's universal to any type of roof pitch. So another thing is that as a contractor, you have to have a flashing for every type of situation. With the Mini, the RT Mini specifically, it can do everything that you need it to do on any roof pitch with minimal work and minimal training. You do not need to be a solar expert or an expert roofer to use the product. So super easy to use, very minimal damage to the roof. It can be rafter or deck. It's just basically a universal product that can do anything. So that alone really kind of got contractors on our side. And then that had a triple up effect to where they started asking their distributors. And then, of course, that's how Roof Tech grew to where we were at right now, with starting to have a really big impact on market share for the residential installers.
That's super awesome. And I'm really excited to get my hands on them. So, Michael, just curious, does Roof Tech actually manufacture any racking? And if not, who do you guys work with? What's your product compatible with?
Gotcha. Good question. So the Mini, we'll start with that. The Mini is 100% compatible with any type of L-foot and rail on the market. But that wasn't our first approach to the industry. Our first approach to the industry, once again, based on our success in Japan, was actually Railless. So we came to the US in 2012 with a Railless product. And at that time, no one was Railless, or they were just starting to think about Railless. But the version of Railless was, okay, let's use small pieces of rail and more connection points. So you can imagine us trying to come into the industry with not only a unknown type of flashing, but also an unknown method of install with Railless racking. So we do have the full solution. We're now on our 3rd generation of Railless racking. And as you may know, Railless racking has become very popular in certain areas, but not all across the board. So our full solution, the Apex, is super cool. It's a full Railless system, super easy to use. It's the only Railless system in the country that can be attached to rafter or deck, a combination of rafter and deck, and we have all the engineering spans to do that. We also, with this 3rd generation, brought in the use of splicing to where you can splice modules together and kind of share that load of connection points over 2 different modules. Very cool thing. We have universal attachments. Anywhere between a 30 millimeter module and a 40 millimeter module can be handled with our product seamlessly, which is pretty cool because right now, there were so many varying types of module sizes over the past few years. We saw anywhere from 32 to 50 millimeter thick panels. And now they're kind of slowly starting to get into a regular between 30 and 40. So we've had to adapt to the industry in that manner to where our first products weren't fully capable of handling all that. But now we can pretty much handle the majority of the market with those products, especially the new 30 millimeter products. That's something kind of new to the industry, is we're actually thinning down the module sizes and adding some more supports. REC is a good example of that. And one of the major reasons why they did that was to fit more modules onto a container and thus making the cost per penny or the price per watt so much more affordable. So we do have that full universal attachment ability with a Railless system, as well as we offered the Mini to other users that didn't want to move away from rail. So that way we could try to still make sure people were going to be able to benefit from our flashing product, but yet not have to take the jump to learn how to do Railless. So in the end, we are defined as a Railless racking manufacturer, and the Mini is just something that we created for the U.S. market to kind of meet their demand.
I think that's fantastic. And I want to go back to something that you just touched on a moment ago, and that's price. And, you know, that's something that as a former contractor myself, time on the job is money. And I think that all contractors would agree what's more important than money and labor on the job is actually getting your crew up and down off the roof safely. That's the number one goal anytime you go out into the field. So to have a product like this that actually speeds up the amount of time that you spend on a rooftop, to me, I find this as a tremendous value as an installer, because I'm looking at this from the perspective of, I know that I traditionally spend most of my time on a job, you know, finding rafters, lifting shingles. It's the most tedious part of the job. And I think for new installers especially, they might not realize that. They see the panels, they see the rails, for example. That's just the icing on the cake. As you and I know, most of the time that you spend on the job comes from all the other tedious stuff. So when Dave presented your product to me initially, I was pretty taken back. I mean, I think this is awesome. I definitely want to get my hands on it. And I really encourage our other installers within the GreenLancer platform who haven't tried it yet to give it a try, because not only is it going to get your crew up and down off the roof even faster, it's going to save you money as well. To me, that's a win-win for any contractor.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you know, so like, as I mentioned before, some of the initial hesitation from contractors was trying something new. But when they actually sit down and look at this, like you automatically caught it right from the beginning, the amount of time savings is absolutely huge. I can confidently tell you that our flashing, when using it as a deck or a rafter product, you literally can install it 5 times faster than your traditional metal flashing. And you take that times your average amount of flashings of possibly 40 flashings a job, and that is huge. Now, with that being said, you know, it's not only the fact that we save, you know, the amount of time on the roof, but we also can guarantee you that you're not going to be called back for any type of maintenance regarding roof leaks. We are so confident in our product, mainly because it's been on the market for 26 years. So we truly put onto it a 25-year guarantee that it's not going to leak as long as it's properly installed. That is something that's also huge to a contractor. You get a truck call back, you're automatically out $300 to $500 just for sending someone out there for a half a day to identify the problem. So that is a huge, huge factor. And that's one thing I will say. So like when we first came out with this type of flashing in the US around the 2012, there was really no one else doing this besides perhaps maybe QuickBolt. I believe QuickBolt had an on-the-top flashing at the time. Different technology, different approach, but they just started doing it. So when we come to the market and we say, hey, I know you're starting to see more and more people do this on top of the shingle connection, what they're missing is the technology that we use. Don't get me wrong. I'm a fan of any product that doesn't have to have you lift up the shingle. That's already out the gate. You're ahead of the game. However, when it comes to longevity of how long is this product going to last, we can confidently say it's going to last for 25 years, to where all these other guys that are just coming out with these new products, some of them haven't even seen their first winter yet. So even though I love the approach and I'm glad that people are trying to do what we have been doing, I would just give that warning. You know, we may not be the cheapest game in town, which, as you mentioned, cost is very important to contractors. However, that guarantee that I offer will make the difference between any upfront cost versus our product.
And I love that. And Michael, I want to just specify a couple things too, and maybe clear up some things that people might think are rumors or whatever.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do I have to hit the rafter with the Roof Tech Mini?
No. So with all of our products, our Railless and our Mini, you have the option to hit the rafter. which is cool because you can decide up front, do I want to hit the rafter or do I just want to go to the deck? So for first-time installers, new company startups, and I love supporting those guys because, I used to be that guy. So I love to be able to tell them, it's like, listen, you don't have to hire a roofer. We can literally do a decking install. You don't even have to find a rafter. And let's start with that. Now, granted, when you're doing a decking install versus a rafter install, you're going to be using more attachments, which up front, some people don't like the idea. It's like, oh, I'm putting in more holes in the roof. And one of the most things I can say about that is it's not about how many penetrations you put in the roof. It's about the quality of that penetration. So as you can imagine, commercial buildings, they're loaded with stuff on top of the roof. There's no limit to what you can do. It's a matter of how confident you are in that sealing process. So we give you the option. And with Rafter, you can use less attachments, but you have to be a little bit more precise about using the attachment. Now, one thing, many things, I keep saying one thing, but there's so many benefits to this product, it's hard to even keep track of. But I will say this about the Rafter, is we've also done other kind of ground baking approach. Once again, for 25 years, we have really not been using your standard lag bolts, your 5/16 and greater lag connection, which need to be pre-caulked and pre-drilled. And up until recently, that was your number one way of finding a rafter, is you would try to find it with your hammer, listen to the sound, little mix between art and skill. And then from there, you would begin to try to find your pilot hole. And you would be putting your pilot hole into the roof with your drill, and maybe you missed on the first one, or maybe you just clipped the edge, and then you find the center. So you put 3 holes into the roof, which you now have to take care of. You got to caulk them or replace the shingle, whatever you got to do to make that right, or put in a piece of slip flashing. There's a few different ways to do it. But with our product, you do not have to do any type of pilot holes. So you're not limited to the middle 27% of that rafter, which is just under, it's about 9/16 of an inch that you're trying to fit a 5/16 lag bolt into. We sell and we use 3/16 wood screws. So instead of having to hit that middle small percentage, you now have up to 7/8 of an inch of that rafter to now hit. So you can actually be less skillful in finding the center of that rafter without having to put extra holes into the roof, which, by the way, is one of the number one causes of roof failure, roof leaks, is unflashed pilot holes. So we get rid of that entirely. So it gives great diversity without having to worry about being as precise for rafter attachments, or you don't even have to hit a rafter at all.
Wow. Yeah. As a former installer, I wish I would have had something like this because
right.
Well, like you said, I mean, the old fashioned way of, taking the hammer, because let's be real, I don't think there's a stud finder out there that's going to go through an asphalt shingle accurately and tell us right where the center of that rafter is. And you can't trust that the contractor who built the home had every rafter perfectly 24 inches on center, for example, like
right.
commonly here in Michigan. But to have a product just go off of one measurement and just say, hey, this is where we start. This will now be our, initial point of flashing, and we can install directly around this. I think that's fantastic. And you don't have to worry about missing and refixing holes. And like you said, it's incredibly expensive. If a client calls with a roof leak, you've got more than just that $500 visit, right? It's not going to be a fun time. So
ruin your day.
Exactly. For sure. Well, Michael, I'm curious, what is the actual material that gives you that guarantee that this is going to be a good seal to the roof if you're just going into the decking?
Okay, good question. So there's many types of seals out there. We've got silicone seals now, we've got EPDM seals, and we have different forms of butyl. Now, we do use a form of butyl, but it is a compound that we created specifically for us. So we have the ownership of this chemical for the butyl flashing that is only for us, proprietary for us. And we've been using the same chemical formula for 26 years. So we've done a lot of in-house testing on top of a lot of real-world testing. So we are absolutely positive in our product. But I will say what really separates us, besides time and chemical compatibility, as well as being on so many roofs, over 1 million roofs now over the past 26 years, is just simply the way it works. So it's a malleable product that is an adhesive. So automatically, as you put it down, it seals to the roof. Without even having to screw it down, you have a seal. Then when you put the lags or the wood screws through that seal, it drags that flexible flashing all the way through the roof membrane or shingles into the sheathing or rafter to create that watertight seal. Other seals require that you either use some sort of sealant underneath of them, like for example, of the EPDM seals and the silicone seals, require that you use an additional sealant on the backside of them. Plus, you got to also caulk and pre-fill your pilot holes. Now, this takes away from the product when you ask me, because now you're not only dealing with the racking manufacturer, you're dealing with the racking manufacturer warranty and your sealant warranty. So then if you do get a leak, whose fault is it? Is it the sealant that failed, or is it the product EPDM or silicone seal that failed? Those are all question marks. With us, there's only one product. So there's only one phone call you got to make if anything goes bad. And we take ownership of that, which, by the way, has never happened. The other thing I'll mention about different seals in the industry is EPDM and silicone rely on tension, rely on pressure. So with our system, if the screw is backed out for whatever reason, it's still going to be watertight. We've done back out screw testing with submerged water for over 30 days, 90 days, etc. So we will actually put them underwater with the screws not being screwed in all the way, just to show you how much our seal works. With these other products that might be out on the market that utilize EPDM seals and silicone seals, there's no adhesion there. So theoretically, if that bolt ever loosens up from expansion, contraction, freeze, thaw, any type of reason, you would be looking at possible compromises because you are now not having pressure on a system that is designed to always be under pressure. Otherwise, it loses its tension and you could possibly have issues. So not all seals are the same. And I can't say this hard enough, not all butyl seals are the same. Not every compound is correct for being adversely used for all types of products. So if someone does try to come out with a new type of sealant, is something to be very worried about. You know, how long has this product actually been tested for? Do we know where this product came from? Has it ever been used on roofing before? We all know those things about our products, so that's why we're so confident in it. But I can't say that for anyone else jumping into this on top of the roof approach.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I can confidently say that I am very close with other clients who can confidently say that they fully trust your product as well. So one of the things that I specialize in here at GreenLancer is actually helping new contractors start in the solar industry. It doesn't matter if they're, fresh into solar, starting from scratch, or if they're an existing contractor who's looking to get into solar. One of the things that I specialize in is actually helping them get started. So I'm going to make sure that they understand that this is a go-to product when it comes to any sort of a rooftop installation. Occasionally, I find myself back in the field where I'm actually helping and training. So I really, really hope next time I'm out on the roof, I'm holding one of your products in my hands and giving it a go, because I think this is tremendous. And I think that everyone needs to know about it for all the reasons we mentioned: safety, time, money, peace of mind. Like you said with the roofs, I mean, that's a huge thing too. So Michael, I really appreciate you coming on here today. I was hoping you could just tell everyone where your products can be found and then how people can get a hold of you if they have any other questions.
Great. Yeah. So I highly encourage everyone to go to our website. It's simply just roof-tech.us. And on our website, we're going to have a list of all of our distribution partners. We do have an online web shop that's designed for perhaps your homeowner who doesn't normally go through distribution. But we always encourage our customers to go through distribution. They're going to be the best help for them to receive product on time and good delivery service. And we try to be with as many distribution partners as possible. As you mentioned, we just want everyone to be able to know that this product's out there. We want everyone to be able to take advantage of this for the sake of having a good name in the industry as solar installers that offer quality products, as well as making sure that we don't have any issues down the road. One of the worst things that can happen to the solar industry is people could be afraid of getting solar on the roof from fear of, we might have a leak. So that's number one. We're always coming out with new install videos, new testimonials on our website. So I encourage people to come check that out. And, outside of that, I just wanted to mention that, as we are dealing with this kind of COVID era of solar installs, we are kind of changing how we do business a little bit. Normally, my sales guys, who are also my trainers, by the way, and half of them are actually ex-installers. I find that to be an extremely great quality when it comes to having these conversations with our customers. But we're trying to basically move to more of a digital platform. So instead of going out on site, which they normally do to help with installs, we're working on creating a lot more videos. We're certainly doing a lot more Zoom meetings with customers to try to keep them going. We know that the solar market is classified as essential, and in a lot of cases, it really is. We want to make sure that people have cheap, affordable power, especially during the time that they may not be actually earning money themselves. So we want to make sure everyone has access to that stuff, which is on our website. And I also wanted to make sure to mention, contractors out there, rope up, mask up, be safe. That's a big thing right now. And we certainly don't want to have the industry be crippled with our essential workers, dealing with the disease themselves.
Awesome. Well, Michael, I really enjoyed this conversation today and would love to have you back on again in the future, and really, really excited, like I said, to get my hands on your product. So to all of my Green Lancer friends, please give Michael a call, go to their website, check out this product. It really, really is fantastic. So Michael, thank you again for being my guest today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.